Good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining this afternoon's Cuppa Club with Helen and Chris, who are both co-founders and directors of Kindling Farm. My name's Paul Pizzala, and I'm the Senior Investment Manager at Ethex, working with Helen and Chris on Kindling Farm's offer. So before we get started, there is a bit of housekeeping to do, and I'd like to let you know that the Cuppa Club is recorded and it's made available on YouTube to watch, and we also do an edited highlights version. Also, please do note this is not a financial promotion, and if you do need advice, please talk to an independent financial advisor. So, as many of you will know, the Cuppa Club usually runs for 30 to 45 minutes, and it is a fantastic opportunity to meet and ask questions of the directors and hear about why Kindling Farm is such an impactful organization, how it aims to achieve its goals, what your investment is funding, and ask some questions about the challenges and the opportunities. So, we really do encourage you to ask your questions in the chat box, and I'll be moderating those and picking them up and feeding them into the webinar as we go along. So before Helen and Chris introduce themselves, the community shares on offer are to help buy Barnhay Farm, which is where Chris and Helen are coming from today, and significantly reduce bank debt so that Kindling is owned by the community it serves. The community shares on offer have a potential rate of return of 3% and are withdrawable shares to provide liquidity to investors. And please do refer to the offer document for more details. So, turning over to Helen and Chris to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit of the background on why we're here today.
Great, thank you, Paul, and thanks everyone for coming. We're just going to do a very brief intro to who we are and what we're doing. We've got, because quite a few of you have probably read the share offer document or watched the video, but basically we have, Chris and I and the team have over a decade's experience of doing food and farming initiatives over in Greater Manchester. So we've got a couple of sites over there, a market garden site and a 21-acre site where we're doing, where we've got our fruit tree nursery for our the agroforestry system that we're setting up here at Barnhay Farm. And we also run training for new farmers in organic farming, regenerative farming. We do lots of community engagement. So what we do is all about increasing the volume of food produced, but also making sure that that's more accessible. There's quite a strong social justice element to what we do, and that's about supporting new farmers, but also making sure that food is accessible to more people. And then also a really big part of what we've been doing over the last 12 or so years is growing the markets for our food so that we know that we can sell it once we've taken on a large scale farm. So the vision of Kindling Farm is basically about doing that. It's about scaling up everything that we do in Greater Manchester, but about doing it for an extended market here, because we're between Manchester and Liverpool here in Knowsley, and also doing it in the most agroecological way possible, and just making sure that we can both have more volume of food, but also increase livelihoods for farmers and engage more people. And then our longer term plans involve social enterprise, potentially more employment locally, adding value to our produce, and also engaging more people in food. So some of you may know that we had a other community share offer in 2021. That was because we had been approached to buy a farm. And so we launched the community share offer, and it was hugely successful. It was amazing. We were quite overwhelmed by people's interest in what we do. And then in the middle of that campaign, that farm fell through. But incredibly, we kind of went back to all the investors and said, okay, we no longer have that farm, but we want to carry on running the campaign, because having money behind you means that you can be ready to move as something comes on the market. And it really incredibly, most people stayed with us and more people got involved. So yeah, that's where we are. Over the last 18 months we've been searching for a farm, and this is what we found. That we would love more people to be involved in it.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thanks, Helen. So Chris, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Sorry, that was it. I was doing the intro. He doesn't get to speak.
No, which is probably good because I'm losing my voice. So
we're saving him for the harder questions later.
We are. Hi everyone, I'm Chris. Helen and I have been working together for the last decade or so. We came together as a team maybe 30 years ago to purchase a mill in East Manchester called Bridge 5 Mill, and we've been setting up projects as a team ever since. Maybe 15 years ago, we came together to look at starting Kindling Farm. So we've been working together for a while.
As you can tell.
Yeah, we make a good pair.
We'll let them decide that at the end of the session.
Yeah.
When I get a word in.
Yeah. I'd hate to say you look like a married couple because
it's to do with bumpers. It's very cold here. We didn't plan to have the same colour.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks, Chris. And you're both co-founders and directors, and maybe just sort of touch on what your specific roles are at the farm.
I mean, really, I suppose I do more of the community engagement side of things. I oversaw the purchase process of the farm and did all of that side of things. But yeah, I'm kind of both do the development work, the fundraising.
Yeah, and now I'm kind of more focused in on kind of the physical development side, farm machinery purchasing, surveys of the buildings, things like that.
And then we've got other two directors, including Stu, who's got a lot of farming experience. We've got some that Stu does kind of a lot of the planning and with us, which is great.
Yeah, and then Abby works for John Lewis Partnership, has a lot of experience of engaging members and involving members. So we've got a nice team. We're going through a process of bringing on more directors as well.
Yeah, brilliant, excellent. That's really good to hear. And I've got to say the quality of the offer document and the business plan is really very high. And you've brought in all the relevant stakeholders to support the organization. So I know it's not easy finding it and acquiring a farm. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that journey to make sure that you got the right site in why is Barn Hay such a good site for delivering on the plans?
Yeah, I know it looks like I'm just talking all the time. I'll do this bit because I was doing the main looking for the site. So obviously after the last farm fell through, we actually got a different land agent who had a bit more time to put into doing the legwork of looking for a farm for us, and it was a really interesting process. So not many farms came up for sale in the Northwest. A lot that did came up were much larger scale than we were looking for, but some were sort of split into different lots. They actually all got snapped up really quickly by Home Bargains, which is quite a large scale buyer. And then other farms, we considered about 6 other farms, and one we actually went down the process and got a valuation done. That one, there were various different reasons why. Some were to do with distance from market, or even if it was kind of close enough in miles, it was really hard to get to in terms of accessibility. And that's obviously really important in terms of the business model, that it's accessible for our markets. The farm that we got the valuation done on was it just ended up being too expensive for us. And compared to the valuation, it was valued a lot lower than the asking price. But it was actually really useful for us because it got a conversation going again with the bank, who were really supportive of that. So that was really interesting. And at one point our agent said, just to say, if you were looking in the east of England, there would be farms coming up all the time, but actually in the northwest it's like people have more of a emotional attachment to their land. And he said that's hard because it means that nothing's coming up, but the good thing is that when it does come up, they will be likely to want to sell to you because of your vision, because of your story, which we did actually find to be true with this farm. So that was really interesting. It absolutely definitely helped having had the first community shares scheme and having the finance from that, because we couldn't have responded to this when it did come up if we hadn't had any sort of financial backing. So in November this came up on the market, Barnhay Farm, and we came to visit it a little bit unsure first of all, because it was kind of further towards Liverpool than Manchester, which was because all of our markets and our experiences in Greater Manchester. But after, we were trying to all be very removed and objective about it as we wandered around, and at the end it was just like, wow, if we don't go for this, what is it we're going to go for? Because there was kind of, it's 77 acres, very flat land, which is perfect for fruit and veg, sorry, and cereals. The soil's actually really good. We weren't quite sure first of all because it had just been harvested quite recently for potatoes. So but we then got someone to come and have a look. Spoke to a couple of soil experts, including a grower with an enormous brain and a PhD on soil science, and she came and was like, wow, it's almost, it's as good as our soil, if not better. So got some soil samples and testing done, which we're going to carry on doing at the moment. It's also got quite a few buildings you may have seen on the photos, which is great for the potential sort of the future plans, but also to have agricultural buildings that we can just get on with stuff straight away. Where it's based, so it is close enough to Manchester, but also has new potential markets in Liverpool, St Helens and the surrounding area. And actually what we've just found, we've only actually been here a week, and so we didn't know this at the time, but the community is hugely supportive of us. Like we weren't quite sure how the local farmers would react, because what we're doing is a bit different. But they've all come round, they're all, they're helping us do some machinery work while we haven't got the machinery. So yeah, it's been a real amazing welcome actually. And the family who sold us the farm, that was the other thing that made it pretty perfect, was that the farm was advertised as lots, so you could buy it in 3 different lots, and they really wanted to keep it together as a whole farm. And because otherwise quite often if you sell as lots, the house goes off for development and all of that sort of thing. And they loved the fact that we wanted to do what we're doing and the food and farming, and felt that their parents would have loved that as well. So they kind of quite particularly, one of them really pushed for that, didn't they? So yeah, that sort of all made it feel pretty perfect. And then we put an offer in, and the rest is history, so to speak. Unless there was any, very quick history. It's very, very fast process.
So it sounds like a great site, location, the actual, makeup of the land, accessibility and closeness to your market. So really hits all the key factors in terms of the business plan, but also has the support of the local community and the farmers, which is really important too. That's brilliant. Really, really good to hear that. What we have already got a question straight off the bat, actually, and just to really paraphrase it, I suppose, because we know you've been on the Ethex before. You had a really super successful raise, £900,000. You're looking to target 400,000 this time, and ideally get up to 900,000. So could you tell us a little bit of what's the relationship between existing investors and new investors? So I'm sort of imagining that some of the existing investors would want to join in to this offer as well, and of course there'll be some new investors too. So maybe if you could just walk us through that a little bit.
I think you should do that.
Okay. So basically, we would absolutely welcome existing investors to reinvest. That would be great, and actually a lot already have and have been super supportive of that. So basically, when you invest with us, you become, as community shareholders, you become members. So obviously the investors who have already invested are already members and are already part of Kindling Farm, own Kindling Farm. And then the new investors will become members as well. So everyone will be members, everyone will be equal in however much you invest, you're equal in terms of your decision making and part of it. In terms of the way we've done the offer is that we did want to respect the kind of and acknowledge the fact, the first investors, because they did take a chance because they didn't know where the farm was or what was going to happen. So we've kept the terms exactly the same, whereas where in the first share offer, if you invested, it was 3 years before interest started accumulating, and I hope I'm using the right terminology, and 3 years before you could apply to withdraw your shares. And what we're saying is that the same will be for people who invest, the new investors, so it will be 3 years from now rather than 3 years from the original share offer, if that makes sense. But in terms of engagement and hopefully people coming who want to come and get involved and being part of the AGMs and all that sort of thing, is the same. And I think all of our existing investors are really excited about new investors coming on board.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add, or does that answer the question, do you think, Paul? Or?
Yeah, it's a great answer. So, to summarize, everybody's on an equal footing in terms of their ability to be involved in the decision making at the AGM, for instance.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to bear in mind that this is a community organization, and community shares are specifically designed to support community organizations which, whilst profitable, they're aiming to really support the community through their activities. So I think that's a really important point to make.
Just to quickly add to that, it's interesting because some of what we also do is members surgeries, always ongoing. So we're doing them as part of the share offer, but also once the share offer closed, we sort of have regular member surgeries just to update people and for people to ask questions. And a few of the members came on who were Ethex investors, sort of long-term Ethex investors, and they were saying, we're actually down in Devon. Is it like we can't really get up there to help you? And they were saying we just really wanted to help you make this happen. So that's also completely fine. Some people are doing it because they just want to help make it happen, and because they want to give the shares to their grandchildren or whatever. Whereas other people are kind of chomping at the bit to get on the farm and get involved, and all is welcome, basically. Yeah. I just wanted to say that so everyone doesn't feel freaked out that we're going to make them come on the farm.
It's a community of interest. Okay, so I think it would also be really useful to understand a little bit about the financing arrangement. So maybe you could tell us, what happens if you reach your target of £400,000, and then what happens if you reach your target of £900,000? How does that change the way that you think about your path to sustainability?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you should answer that. Helen should always answer.
Speak, I promise. I'll let him speak.
Helen should always answer financial questions.
We're coming on to you next, Chris.
So basically the idea is, one of the reasons that we went for 400,000 is because we raised, I think, as you just said, we had just over 900,000 available from the last share offer. So we were originally going to just get the rest in commercial bank loan, and then one of the funders that we work with, have a history with, offered us the chance to take £400,000 bridging loan at a much cheaper rate than the bank loan. And part of that was about trying to reduce the cost of that, but part of it was also about knowing that now we knew where the farm was, we wanted to engage more people and open the share offer again, but couldn't do that if we had the bank loan, really. So and the most they could give us was at that short notice was the £400,000. So that was one of the reasons that we chose that as the optimum amount, was to pay that back. Having said that, they have given us a year to raise that, to pay them back with that. So that, it is definitely our optimum. The idea is that it would, I'm just going to look because I don't know the figures off by heart.
Before you do that bit,
yes,
would you kind of lay it out in its entirety?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it would be 400 for the moment, 400,000 with the bridging loan that we hope will become the community shares. 600,000 loan from the bank, commercial loan from the bank, and then the rest from the community shares, from the original community share offer. And the which is I think that is 870 that bit is, or 970 is the total amount, and altogether that gives us a bit of working capital as well. Does that make sense? And then basically, if we get the £400,000, then over the life of the loan, because this is what we were sort of looking at, it's kind of at the rate that we're at the moment, because the cost of loan went up from the original when we were originally looking at it. So if at this rate, it would save us, I wrote it down because I don't, it would save us 330,000 over the 25-year loan, which just, if you think about the strength of a community business or of any business, you know, that sort of long-term kind of sustainability, it just gives it that better foundation, that stronger foundation. And then you were asking about if we reach the maximum, apart from having a massive party, it would save us again, if you're looking at it in a similar way over if it was based on the current rate of interest, which we all hope will be going down, but if it was based on that over the 25 years, it would reduce the interest on the payments by 980,000 over the 25 years. So it's really significant. And basically what it would I guess what it mean, because it's the membership would ultimately decide what we then do with that. It would mean that we could definitely have a bit of a breather, because we would know that there was reduced payments over that time, but it would also mean that we could invest more in the business. Potentially we could bring forward some of the plans that we've got for the future, but also, it would just mean that there was a much stronger foundation to be able to ultimately pay our investors back and pay if they wanted to withdraw, and also the interest payment, which is what we want to be able to do.
I think the only thing I would add to that is the reason why we've got that, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've got the £900,000 maximum, is that we've been adamant that we will only spend the investment from community shareholders on the purchase of the farm.
Yeah.
So we would never want to raise more money through community shares than the farm is worth in value, because if things go really badly wrong, we sell the farm and we return people's investment, and we don't want to kind of unbalance that.
So it would leave £100,000 with the bank, because that's the working capital amount.
Okay, so actually very, in a way, the 900,000 is the best of all possible worlds for you, the farm, the members and the community, in terms of your financial resilience, your ability to bring forward your plans, and actually you have the asset in the background to support the value of the offer. And if I'm not mistaken, the value of farmland has been going up and up and up and up. So
absolutely, and it was really interesting getting the valuation done, because it was spot on, because normally everyone was going, well, don't worry, it'll always be valued lower than slightly lower, because that's what they have to do for the bank. When they're valuing for the bank, they generally value them a bit lower, and it wasn't, it was spot on. So it is holding its value.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm got a few questions coming through that are going into the weeds a little bit, and I'm going to try and weave that in. So going to get onto a bit more of the business side, or the operational side, if you like. And it's impossible to avoid the headlines and reality of inflation and energy, food prices, and building material costs, which I know that you've looked at. Can you talk about how that's influencing your planning and your financial modeling? So for instance, thinking about the refurb, so that's sort of one side of it. And then, how is it influencing your thinking in terms of the cost of producing your goods? You know, how you're going to, you know, the sales prices, and how you're actually going to make money on the produce that you're growing and get it to market.
Yeah.
So maybe quite a lot in there, but you know, important stuff, right?
Thanks. Yeah, so we completely rewrote the business plan. Financially, the world feels a completely different place to when we did the first community shares campaign. But that went along with a kind of root and branch review of everything we do. So looking at how much we're selling our veg bags for, comparing those prices to other people, looking at our costs in terms of production on our other sites. So we've looked at everything, and we found some benefits to our kind of business model. You know, we're quite lean in terms of like fuel costs and staffing and stuff, particularly with the way that the veg box scheme runs. So we looked at that. So not only did we rewrite the business plan, we made quite a few changes in how the business was run. We went out and consulted our veg box customers about price increases and things, and put prices up and stuff. So yeah, across the board, we've been kind of looking at it. I know that Helen's spent quite a bit of time kind of putting contingencies in there and you know, increasing the inflation and stuff, so that we have a business plan that kind of reflects reality. And for us, doing that process, we also identified some other benefits, like we're quite resilient because we have a lot of really loyal, supportive members and customers who have kind of really stuck with us, but also kind of step in. During COVID, that was clear to us. You know, we had customers coming and have been delivering our veg bags or coming and doing packs with us and stuff. So we have a real strong kind of community there. We are looking at farming in a very efficient way, and we're looking at minimizing our inputs, you know, fuel and things like that. So that, and then also this kind of we have purchased a farm that is farmable now. We don't need to do the refurb immediately. We can leave that side of things for a while, kind of hoping things will calm down with inflation and the like. And we're just, you know, we're being given stuff all the time, whether that's farm machinery. And you know, there's a room in a building here the other day that we got into, and that's, you know, we don't need to buy any guttering now because it's a room full of guttering and just things like that, really. So that mix of kind of being quite aware and know that we do need to make changes. As you know, as someone who runs a business, you have to be constantly kind of looking at the changes, and then we feel quite resilient with the support we've had.
Yeah.
And then we kind of feel like the market is there. It just needs a bit more work. Particularly in Manchester at the moment. There's a little bit of a lull over winter, but you know, spring comes along, and then also now we're kind of close to Liverpool. We feel there's a market there.
There's a new market in Liverpool, and you know, just really wanted to pick up on the point that you're making, is that having the budget and, you know, financial information coming to you is really important, isn't it, in terms of being able to see what's coming around the corner and how you're doing.
Yeah. And record keeping is really important to us. I mean, we spend a lot of time badgering the staff to fill out the forms and you know, feed the information up. But yeah, we really understand kind of our inputs and stuff.
Yeah, brilliant. I think it's really, you know, there's a very interesting point here about the relationship between sustainability and profitability. And you talk about agroecological farming practices and efficiency. And I know a little bit about this world, but not a lot. And my understanding is that agroecological practices, they allow you to make the most of what's already there in nature, to kind of harvest the symbiosis, the power of the soil, if you like. So the quality of the soil is your fertilizer. So you don't need to put loads of fertilizer on it, which saves you money, which makes you more competitive. So I just wonder if you could try and give a couple of examples of how agroecological or sustainable farming practices combine these ideas of sustainability and profitability together.
I suppose the foundation really is resilience, and the resilience comes from diversity. So that's the first thing. Like, yeah. So our agroforestry system will involve trees and then a number of kind of vegetable crops in that field. And you might be unlucky and lose one crop, but at least you've got another couple of crops. So I think that's probably the foundation of it.
And also the different, so some of the farms that we went to visit, the agroforestry farms, it was just really interesting because apart from the wildlife benefits, it was also that it was at the different times of year, it made the most of the natural resources, as you say, but at different times of year, and then you'd have harvest spread over different times of year as well, that just sort of increased meant more of a stable, constant income rather than everything at once. And
you get a more even yield. You get a yield throughout the year, in other words, because you're cropping different things because of the diversity that's in your agroforestry plan. Okay, so that's the key.
And then the farming methods we're adopting. So out on the field at the moment, yesterday we had delivered pallet loads of green manures. And this first year we're just sowing green manures over the whole 70 odd acres. And that's to build for soil fertility, but it's also to suppress the weeds. And that will be ongoing. So we'll avoid kind of bare soil. So, next year we might have a green manure crop growing, and then within that we will plant our veg, and the veg will come up through that. So that saves us running down there with, well, obviously we won't be using weed killer, but it saves us running down there with weeders and stuff like that. So that's I noticed there was a question about efficiency. Like if we can get nature or our plants to do the work for us, that saves us time in terms of staff and fuel and things like that.
And agroforestry really does that in terms of kind of providing a shelter, like wooden shelter, helping manage the water on site, stopping the soil eroding and blowing off. And so it's a really incredible system, I think.
Another thing we're doing at the moment is quite a few surveys, like water surveys, and then designing the field drainage systems, so that in future years we won't be paying to irrigate the soil, because it will be holding the water through increased biomass, but also like we'll have a relatively smart drainage system. So like that, or none of this is very clever. It's all kind of out there. People use it all the time. We just kind of want to use a lot of it on the
putting it all together. Putting it all together. One thing, are there any plans to add livestock to the farm as part of the crop rotation / fertility? That's a question from Joe.
No, so we're focusing on fruit and veg. So for some people, that's a kind of efficiency choice. For others, it's just our markets. For me, it's the market. We don't know livestock. For me, it'll be a big leap in terms of kind of experience and expertise. We just want to grow fruit and veg for our markets. But saying that, we've got so many kind of things to learn, and we are an organization with wouldn't say this is the right system or that's the wrong system. So yeah.
Interestingly, around here there isn't livestock farming, and also that's largely as well because of the soil. So the neighbours were sort of saying this is actually really good soil on this farm. It's a good veg soil, so it just makes total sense. There's other areas of the UK where you wouldn't be able to do this, so you should do it in the places where you can, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's sort of like sticking to what you're good at, which is in the early days is absolutely the way to go for sure. And it sounds like that's that's where your market is, that's what you'll know, and that's what the land supports. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, we've got we found lots of horse-drawn machinery in the barn. It's quite
that's awesome. I know.
I don't think we've got time.
Okay, brilliant. So I think you've touched a little bit on this next question that I'm about to ask, and at the grassroots level of your farming plan, planting, can you paint a picture of what's going to happen in the next couple of years to establish your success, and why you feel confident about that?
Yeah, so I suppose confidence wise, I think the soil's looking really good. The neighbours have just been fantastic. We have moved here with hardly anything. I mean, we've got machinery, we've got farm machinery on we've got 22 acres we rent, but we haven't turned up with anything, and the neighbours have been fantastic. One of the neighbours has been drilling. They're going to be sowing our green manure next week. Someone else has offered to fix the gates for us, and yeah, those would be the two things that would give me confidence about kind of the farm becoming a farm, a productive, profitable farm quite soon.
And everyone that's popped in has asked when we're opening the farm shop.
Yeah,
so there is a demand.
There's
nothing around here.
You are going to have an on-site farm shop, which is brilliant because you basically cut out the middleman, right? So you're selling your own goods without having to take it off to a supermarket.
Yeah, we are not. So this first summer, we are just learning as much about the area as possible, learning as much about the farm as possible. The reason for putting green manure down is to build soil health for us, but also for us to understand the farm.
Yeah,
we don't want to make any decisions now that impact in the future. So yeah,
and that's a key principle of design, isn't it? So to invest time in understanding the land that you've got first.
Yeah, which we feel really lucky to be able to do, but it feels because it feels really important. It does feel really important.
Yeah. So yeah, green manures, having lots of surveys done, got lots of ecologists running around the site, lots of soil samples, lots of baseline stuff, so we can see if this works, in terms of kind of soil health and stuff like that, and how quickly those improvements are made. And
I'm working with people like Farm Carbon Tool and the University of Manchester to look at our carbon emissions and how we sequester carbon
and then like fixing gates, ditches, drainage we're still looking at, and then this autumn we'll start putting in the fruit trees. So we'll put in several thousand fruit trees, and then I'm going to apply for planning for some polytunnels, and just basically be ready for next growing season.
And also growing the markets as well. So locally sort of doing work and around Liverpool, and really revisiting with our Manchester markets as well, like to make sure that we're absolutely ready for the first harvest. And all of the engagements, because we're still like literally just in the farm, so just getting to know people, finding out what they want, all that's
And I did notice a question, what happens with our other projects? Like, we've got the team over here next week, and it's about integrating that seamlessly. So at our Woodbank site in Stockport, we might grow kind of fresher products in the polytunnels. We might start our farm starters there, learning horticulture, and then they might join us here on the farm. We're talking about the opportunities of promoting our box scheme to a broader group of people in Manchester, built on the fact that we now own a farm. You know, so all of that is yeah, all of our other stuff is going on.
Yeah.
We employ
another team.
Yeah, another team in Manchester, and they're cracking on with that, and then yeah, just kind of bringing it all together.
Brilliant, excellent. That's fantastic. So we're sort of coming up to a close now, so I'm going to kind of start wrapping up. Somebody's asking about apple trees, so maybe we can
So just quickly say damsons, pears, plums, quince, and hazel. Although we're not sure we'll get many nuts because of the squirrels.
Yeah. And I noticed that Christopher is asking quite a detailed question. So Christopher, we'll get back to you separately on that if we may, and then organise a call with Chris and Helen.
Yeah, really happy to do that.
Brilliant. So finally, you know, what is the bigger picture for community-led farming in your view? You know, why is it so important, and how is Kindling helping to make that happen? So, you know, what's the bigger picture for community-led farming?
I think that's really. Are you okay if I talk about that bit?
Yeah,
I think you can butt in. I think it's a really good question, and I think one of the reasons that we've set we believe we need to change the way things are. The food and farming system, you know, the food and farming system is responsible for 25% of carbon emissions and so on. There's hundreds of things wrong with it, but also it's really hard to get into farming for people, because unless you're from a farming family or you know, have inherited a lot of money, it's very hard to have access to land. So we feel like this is a model that is presenting that alternative way in, and at the moment there aren't many other examples of it, especially not up this way, not up in the northwest.
No.
But interestingly, we did a presentation in Oxford in January at one of the farming conferences there, and the room was completely full and people waiting outside, and it was all people wanting to do something like this through community shares. So it feels like there's a lot of desire to do it, and our hope has always been, you know, we aren't going to change the food and farming system here on our own. It's about working with other farmers, but also about showing a different way of doing it. So what we want to do is do this well, but also really help other people to do it, and we believe it's a really important way to engage other people, because not everyone wants to be a farmer, but to actually feel part of your food system. And what we found is that people are saying it's giving them hope that something else is possible, and being part of the solution. And so yeah, we just feel like it's a really good model for that, really.
Yeah, we don't feel the solutions to the farming crisis are on farms. Like, the solutions are the relationships you have with buyers, you know, the market, all sorts of things. Like, we could farm this farm in a range of different ways, but you know, it's not going to be profitable if we haven't got supportive customers understand the farming sector, that kind of thing. And that comes from kind of community ownership, or community ownership is a really powerful way of kind of bringing two groups together, like your growers and your consumers. So that would be an important element for us as well, I think. Brilliant.
It's all about stakeholders bringing people together. All that remains to say is that, you know, thank you very much to our audience for listening in. Hope we answered most of your questions. I noticed there's a couple of ones we'll get back to you on, one from John, which we'll get back to you on. So massive thanks to Helen and Chris. The offer is open until the 1st of July. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We'll be sending updates and edited highlights of this video around. And of course, you know, please do get onto the website and take a look at the offer. So I'd like to say thank you very much for your time, everyone. And all that remains to say is for Helen and Chris to say thanks and goodbye.
Yeah, thank you so much. We are also, I think this has been recording, so the person who said they missed the first part, I think it will be available. We are also doing a number of webinars about kind of how we develop Hay Farm and what we do, and we're quite excited about that. We've got other experts coming in, so do join us for those as well. I think Ethex can send those dates out for us and stuff, and also other online surgeries for people that just have questions like this. So we're really happy to to answer any questions. But thank you so much. Thanks to Ethex. Thanks to all of you.
Yes,
and join us. Come and visit.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Bye.
Okay, thank
Bye.
you. Bye.